Welcome to Hangar 14 RC. My name is Alex, and today we got a special package in the mail from hobbyzone.com and Arrows RC. This is the Arrows 1100mm T-28 Trojan, and today we're going to unbox it, assemble it, and see what it's all about. Taking the lid off this thing, we get to see all the goodies that are inside, starting with our wing. This is a one-piece wing, and as you can see, it already has everything pre-installed for us. Once that's out of the way, we get to the fuselage of the T-28. Taking this thing out, we get to see the color scheme for the first time and how vibrant it actually is. The horizontal stabilizers are tucked into this pocket on the side here, as well as some other parts like our propeller, carbon tail tube, and hardware pack tucked into some of these side pockets as well. I also finally made myself a stand, which will make working on this thing a breeze and will help keep me from smacking this plane into everything I can find. Here we have everything out of the box for the first time of the Arrows T-28. So this is a plug and play airplane, which means that it really doesn't need much assembly, and even on top of that, there are very few parts when it comes to building this actual airplane. We have our wing that's already ready to go. We have our horizontal stabilizers and elevators that just need to be screwed into the back, and then we have our propeller to put on, connect everything up, and we should be good to go. The Arrows T-28 is actually known for its super easy assembly, not much time investment at all when it comes to building this thing, and honestly it looks really good. So the color scheme on this is a bit different than the other T-28s out on the market, and I actually really like that. It's not just the simple white and red or just the pure yellow color scheme. It's something a little different, and I think it looks really good. Now you may notice this plane is a bit on the smaller side. This is only an 1100mm airplane, meaning it only has an 1100mm wingspan, or right around 43.3 inches. But we do get a full 6-channel airplane, which includes flaps and retracts, and not only that, you get a retractable front gear door, which I think is absolutely awesome. You get a bunch of scale details with this thing, even though it is a bit smaller. Compared to some of the other ones on the market in the same size, you do get a bunch more features. Installed in the front here already, we have a 35-36 850 kV brushless motor paired with a 40 amp speed control that's already installed, already hooked up, already good to go. Now that's going to be swinging this 10x7x3 propeller. So you get a propeller, it's a little more on the scale side. It's not just a simple two-bladed propeller. We got the painted tips on there. It's going to match the rest of the plane really nice. We get to install that, and with that as well, we do get a hub that adds a nice amount of detail to it. It's not just going to be one of those regular boring hubs. We actually do get something that simulates the real one. It's about 3 pieces, it looks like. The back piece, the front piece, and then the actual part that locks everything on as well, the actual spinner, I guess you could call it. So I really like that. It's a really nice detail, especially again for just a smaller airplane. We got our bag of hardware here. Essentially all we really need to hook up on this is going to be our elevator. So we get some mounting screws for the wings and the horizontal stabilizers, and then we have our actual push rod in here for the elevators. And then the last thing is this little rod here. It looks like a carbon rod. This is going to be for support for the rear horizontal stabilizers as well, just to add some much needed support. And then this plane does come with some graphics to install if you would like. Taking a look at the box, I'm not sure if I can actually put these, nope, I cannot put those decals on without actually maybe getting demonetized on this video. So for the sake of the video, we're going to leave those off. You can do some research for yourself on what that looks like. I'm going to choose to leave them off for now. Now, since this is a plug and play airplane, the only other thing that we need here is going to be a receiver and a compatible battery to power this whole thing. So I'm going to be using my DX6. So I just went with a Spektrum AR620, no safe, no AS3X or anything like that. Just your simple 6-channel sport receiver that we're going to be using in this thing. And then I went ahead and got the recommended 3S 2200 milliamp LiPo pack. So this thing does only run off of 3S power. It has a 40 amp speed control, so I think it might be able to push a 4-cell, but we'll have to take a look on the inside of here, see if we can even fit a 4-cell. But I don't mind it being able to run off a 3-cell battery pack because we just save money that way. The 3-cell's a little bit cheaper than your 4-cell batteries, and they're a lot smaller, so you can just kind of pack a bunch of them in your bag when you're ready to go flying, and you can have multiple of them because again, they're not as expensive as some of the other options out there. Like I mentioned before, this is a 6-channel airplane, so we have our ailerons, flaps, elevator, rudder, and retracts. These are electronic retracts that are in here, which is awesome, makes everything nice and compact. We do get some actual gear covers on here as well. We'll take a look at the actual landing gear when we go to install, but all this is hooked up and ready to go. The servos are hooked up. The servos themselves, you're gonna find 7 of them throughout the entire plane for all your control surfaces and nose gear and things like that. These are just the Aero standard 9-gram servos. They're plastic gear servos, but they get the job done. Take a look on the inside of this for the first time. We get a magnet release hatch, just have a little pull tab on the back here. Personally, I'd like to see maybe just a little latch or something like that so you don't have this sticking out. These do tend to kind of wear out over time, or at least come off of the back of this. Nothing that another just piece of tape or something can't fix, but I do like to have like the latch version instead of just the pull tab on there. But looking at the inside of here, looks like we have everything all labeled for us, coming up from the wings and everything. All the servo leads, they're labeled with what they go to, so it's going to make hooking everything up nice and simple. We do get a Velcro included for our battery pack, which is awesome, and then that does get secured down by an additional strap that goes over the top of the battery pack here as well. And then finally, we have our instruction manual. I expect this to probably just be pretty basic since we don't have much to really go over. Yeah, it's just going to show us to install the wing, connect all the servo leads, put our horizontal stabilizer on, connect everything up, and we should be good to go. So enough of me yapping, let's get this thing together. All right, so the first step here is to flip this thing upside down and attach our wing and run all the servo wires up to where they need to be. So with my handy dandy little makeshift plane stand that I got here, we're gonna do just that. That's gonna make it nice and easy for us. So get that on its lid. We're gonna go ahead and figure out what we all got going on here. I think our best bet for now is to probably just drop everything down through the middle portion here and then connect it once we're all done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take our canopy off so we can run everything down nicely. You can see it all kind of dumping out the underside there. So we're gonna go ahead and feed all of these wires through. Make sure we get them all through there, bunching anything up on the underside of the foam. Make this nice and easy for us. I've been building a lot of EDF jets lately, and the wire management for that, not nearly as easy as this here. So we're gonna go ahead and get this locked into place. I have to say, everything does seem like it fits nice and tight. There's no loose gaps anywhere or anything like that. This fits really tight. We're gonna go ahead and get this pushed down to where it needs to be. Then we have 4 of these Allen head screws that we're just gonna drop into the 4 spots here and get it tightened down.
Now once we were done with the wing install, it was time to move on to the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. After flipping the plane over, we take the carbon tube and slide it into the one end of the stabilizer, slide it through the fuselage until it sits flush, and slide the other half on so the elevators can link together and move as one. Next is installing the 2 smaller screws, one for each side. Now I'd be careful not to over tighten these here. It doesn't say how tight to like crank them down, but it does press down right into the foam, so snug is good.
All right, so I've got everything kind of laid out as nicely as I could. Important thing here, you're gonna notice that for your servo leads and stuff, obviously you have some of your Y harnesses and things for things like your steerable nose gear and your rudder, your flaps, and your ailerons. Your ailerons are gonna be the only one that's not labeled, just so you know that all of them are labeled except your ailerons, but it is this Y harness. Only one that's not labeled, so not too hard to figure out. But there is something important to note here with the landing gear. This is actually a 3-part harness, so instead of a Y harness, we have 3 different ones that are gonna be connected here going to one actual lead. That is because we have our 2 retracts, and then we have our retract for the front landing gear, which is gonna come from underneath the battery tray. So make sure to go ahead and route that where you need it to, and we're gonna go ahead and plug that into the rest of this harness here, like so. Make sure those tabs are locked in so it's not gonna go anywhere. And then this whole thing right here is gonna be for your retracts. So we kind of got everything separated, a little bit organized. I'm gonna take our AR620 6-channel receiver, and we're gonna load this thing up. We're gonna load up every channel of this receiver. So I think we're gonna end up putting it right about here, which should work pretty good. I'll probably just mount it there with some 3M or something similar just to keep it in place. So we're gonna start with our channel 1 with the Spektrum receivers, which is gonna be our throttle. That's gonna go into our channel 1 spot. Now with these Spektrum receivers, the negative wire goes to
the bottom of the receiver. So we get that plugged in there like so. Channel number 2 is going to be our aileron. So that Y harness that's unlabeled, we're gonna take that. Again, negative side down here. Plug that into channel number 2. Our elevator is gonna be channel number 3. So we're gonna take that one that's taped to the side of our plane here. Plug that right in line with everything else. Channel number 4, that is going to be our rudders and our steerable nose gear. So that Y harness coming again from the back of the airplane or the front of the airplane, depending on how it's sitting, is going to go into number 4. Flaps are going to be the 5th channel on our Spektrum receiver. So we're going to plug that in. And then finally, we have our big old harness for our retracts, which we're going to plug into the 6th and final channel of this receiver. Getting a little tight, but we can squeeze her in, and there we go. Fully loaded AR620, ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and tuck everything down to where it can be. There's a nice channel in the middle of this that is working well for all these wires to get tucked down into. If you wanna throw a zip tie on around those, you can. I don't think it's totally necessary for what we got going on here, but just like that, we got everything tucked into place where it needs to be. All right, so last part of this step, we're just gonna take a little piece of 3M tape here, just a little bit. We're gonna put this on the back of our receiver. Actually, we're gonna do one more just to be safe. Don't want it flying around in there. Just a little piece right on the back here. Get the backing off, and we're gonna go ahead and mount this into where we want it. So right about there. That'll do. With that, we are almost done. We got all of our wires ran, everything is hooked up. The last thing that we need to do is connect our elevator servo to the actual elevators and then put our propeller on, and we're pretty much ready to go. Now, again, I wanted to do that first because 2 things. One, we wanna have power and we wanna have the servos center themselves before we go ahead and put the actual push rod on for the elevator. That way we know it's in its center position and then we can adjust it from there. And 2, just wanna make sure that while we're working on stuff, if it's powered on, we're not accidentally bumping that throttle while working on something else and then this whole thing goes flying off the stand or hits us, because that's not fun. So went ahead and created a new model for this. So we're gonna go ahead and take our battery, 3S2200. We're gonna go ahead and connect that to our plane. We got power. The AR620 is super easy. It's just the button in the center here. That's in bind mode. We're gonna go ahead and hold the bind button on the radio while we turn it on.
Binding. DSMX.
There we are.
Telemetry.
It's simple as that.
Bind complete.
Ailerons are working. They are backwards. Got rudder working, looks like the right way. Go ahead and test our retracts here. There we are. Nose wheel works for steering. The gear doors are such a cool touch for the front of this. That's awesome. Now, with our elevator servo centered, we're gonna go ahead and take our push rod that is already assembled for us, got a nice Z-bend in the back, and we're gonna go ahead and attach it to our servo. So here we have our elevator servo, as you can see there. This is actually a super easy step. So we're gonna take our Z-bend end here, and we're gonna put that into the servo side. We're gonna go ahead and put this on the top hole for the servo. Give us as much throw as possible. We're gonna take this little keeper off the end of it. It looks like we're gonna have to thread this in quite a bit to actually get it to line up with the hole. Biggest thing here that we want to do is get the elevator as even as we can without having to adjust any sort of like sub trim or anything like that. Just because if we can get it simply by adjusting this while we're assembling it, we might as well. Now this is a plastic clevis. I would have liked to see maybe a metal clevis on here, just because this is getting kind of tough to turn and I don't like the way it's flexing that much. Just something with working on a lot of planes and building a lot of planes that I would have liked to see, but I get it. Before we forget, we go ahead and put our little rubber keeper back on here. Pop that back over here. Pop the clevis back open. We'll go ahead and snap that shut and then pull, make sure to pull that keeper a little closer so it keeps that clevis closed on the end. And just like that, we got working elevators. So So real quick too, I did switch the channels that I had my flaps and retracts plugged into. I think I said earlier that your gear should be on channel 6. I like to have my gear on channel 5 because that's what the DX6 has the gear labeled as, is channel 5. So I did go and switch those around, so it does default for the landing gear to be on this big 2-position switch, and then the flaps will be on this 3-position switch like I'm used to. So I did switch that around. The way that I have my radio set up, or how Spektrum actually is not the case. That's how I like to have it set up. So just switch them around. So the last bit of this assembly is going to be installing our awesome 3-bladed propeller here with this little 2-piece hub. This is actually super easy. It doesn't require any tools. We do have a nice brass threaded insert in here that this is just going to tighten on by hand. The motor is going to spin this way to the left. This spins to the right, so we don't really have any worry of this loosening it up at all. Pretty common with electric stuff nowadays. Now, it is important to install this hub the correct way. The instructions aren't very clear on which way that goes, but you'll notice that there is a hex part on here, the shaft of the motor, and there is a hex on one of these sides of the hub. There's not on the other. So we're going to take this hex side and we're going to put it on here like so, get that lined up so it sits where it needs to, and that's going to help make sure that nothing slips when this is all tightened down. Make sure we put our propeller on the correct way here, painted tips towards the front. That's going to sit in there nicely, and then this is going to go on the front side here. There are little nubs on the back side of this hub that will line up with the front piece, kind of like building a plastic model. And then the last thing is going to take this little spinner and we're going to throw it onto the front here. We're going to go ahead and tighten that down by hand as best as we can, just like that. And that closes up nice and neat. That's not going to go anywhere. And our propeller's installed. So here we have the fully assembled Arrows RC T-28 from hobbyzone.com. Honestly, this assembly was super straightforward. If you were just to sit down and go ahead and assemble this thing for yourself, and you've assembled plug and play model airplanes before, you could probably have this knocked out in, I'm not even kidding, probably 30 minutes to 35 minutes if you're familiar with everything and where everything goes and if you have everything ready. It's super simple assembly. Everything kind of just locks into place. There's really minimal parts for it, and everything fits really nice. Nothing gave me an issue at all when assembling this, which honestly, I couldn't ask for much more than that. The overall construction and just feel of this thing, it feels solid. It feels rugged. It feels like it's going to hold up to the test of time, which is really awesome. I think, you know, kind of just a plus when it comes to the Arrows RC stuff. It feels durable, even though it's made out of foam. The actual finish of this as well, usually with the foam planes and things like that, you can see like the different like cells and stuff of the foam. This actually has like a really nice smooth texture to it, especially on the wings and stuff, so you don't get like the super foamy look to it, which I appreciate. Now, I've had plenty of T-28s come and go in my collection throughout my time in the hobby, and I'm really excited to have another one back in the mix once again, and I'm really happy that I get to try out the Arrows RC one. I think this one is going to hold up just as much as any of those other ones did, if not more, because again, with all of the other competitors in this range, you are getting a lot with this one. You are getting the retracts, you're getting the flaps, you're getting the working gear doors, you're getting an actual like detailed cockpit into this, and I think it kind of just puts it a step above a lot of the others when it comes to this price range. The only thing I guess I could want more out of this was a latch for the canopy and maybe some lights. Some lights I think would be just, I think that would really set this plane off. But again, I get it. I really can't complain about it. I think it does look incredibly good. It's got a lot of good detail to it, and I cannot wait to get this thing up in the air. So with all of that, if you are at all interested in checking out this T-28 from Arrows RC and hobbyzone.com, you can check out the link in my description below. If you go check that out, it's gonna help give a little bit of kickback to the channel so we can keep making videos just like this. So I'd really appreciate it. Now, of course, we're gonna be doing the maiden flight on this thing very soon. As soon as it stops raining here in Wisconsin, it feels like it's rained for like the past 10 days and it just won't stop. So the first nice day, we're gonna get the battery charged up, we're gonna go out to the field and do the maiden flight on this thing and see what it's capable of, and I can't wait. So you're gonna wanna make sure to catch that video, so make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications, like this video, drop a comment down below if you've had experience with this T-28 or any of the other from the Arrows RC lineup. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you all so much again for watching. I'm Alex from Hangar 14RC, and we'll see you later.